Good evening. The time is now 7 o'clock. Supervisor Bach was unable to attend this evening due to a family engagement, so I'll be assuming the role of chairman. I will now call the meeting to order. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, is that you? I thought it was one of the kids that was going to refuse to sign their form. Next item on the agenda is public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Would anyone care to comment on any items on this evening's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, approval of the minutes. Any questions or comments regarding the January 14th minutes?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from January 14th.
I'll second. Mr. Ouellette?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next is approval of the bills. Any questions or comments on the payment batch register? Okay, is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
I will second. Mr. Ouellette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next are bids and quotations. The first item is cost assurance agreement, large format printer from the Planning and Development Department and Sewer Revenue Office. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, the current large format printer in the Planning and Development Office is over 15 years old, and due to updates in operating systems, it can no longer communicate with our network in order to transfer scans and prints. It's also beginning to show a decrease in quality, and the parts are difficult to come by because of its age. We are looking to enter into a CoStarz contract, number 440001591 with Star Image Products for a 48-month rental quote. This is an all-inclusive rental, which includes paper, ink, and service contract. The amount of that is $720 for up to 3,000 square feet of prints each month, with a 12-cent per square foot overage charge. Since the beginning of buying the large format copiers, the purchase, service contract, and consumables have been shared with the sewer revenue account, as it's used for both township and sanitary sewer purposes. To continue in that same vein, the monthly rental under the cost assurance agreement would be split between the planning development budget and the sewer revenue fund. This is a budgeted expense in both funds, so I would recommend to the board that you approve the 48-month cost assurance agreement, as well as the agreement addendum prepared by the solicitor and signed by Star Image Products for rental of an OSE ColorWave 3500 multifunction system under CoStarz contract 440001591.
Any questions from the board?
I'll make a motion that we enter into the agreement as recommended by Mr. Waldinger.
I'll second. Before I call for the vote, I do have a question. Mr. Shaw, the supplemental agreement, what are the details of that?
There were some provisions in their standard form agreement that were reviewed as somewhat onerous, so we revised them to make them more acceptable. There was some default provisions that had very high interest rates that we didn't think would be appropriate, and things along those lines. In addition, their requirements when they come on to the property to service the equipment, we require that they have certain insurances in place to cover anything associated with that. In addition, we added a provision to ensure that they could actually bring the machine into the building and get it set up, and that if they failed to do so, we'd be able to void the contract, because there was some concern about whether it would fit given the stairwells that we have here at the building. So we added a provision there to guard against that. So things along those lines.
Okay.
And they accepted our changes without comments. So.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve The cost assurance agreement with Star. Mr. Roulette, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is a time clock purchase for the East Side Garage. That comes from Department of Administration.
Yes, in setting up the new payroll system, we didn't, they never had a clock at the East Side Garage, but now there's permanent staffing there all year. This will help alleviate bottlenecks with punching in, punching out, as well as give the Streets Department flexibility to have people work in either here or there and be able to punch in seamlessly. The cost of the clock is $3,500.50. And it was a budgeted item in the capital budget. We actually had two. We're only adding the one at this time, and we'll reserve purchasing another one until we identify a specific need.
Okay, any questions from the board? All right, is there a motion to approve the purchase of initial time clock for East Side Garage from Kronos at a cost of $3,500.50?
I'll make a motion for that approval.
I'll second. Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the purchase of a compact truck loader from the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Roulette, did you want to cover that on behalf of Ms. Marsteller?
I can. This is a contract for a new John Deere compact loader. Originally, it was budgeted for nearly $59,000. The contract price came in at $56,111.82. This is under a CoStar's contract also. This is through John Deere. And I'll make a motion for that, to approve that purchase.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is new and amended ordinances under review. Ordinance in question this evening is the zoning ordinance amendment for small wireless facilities. Mr. Waldinger or Mr. Shaw?
Yes, I could take that. In January of 2019, the FCC issued a new ruling covering small wireless communication facilities. This rule made several changes to existing requirements. Upon review of the rule and our current code provisions relating to such facilities, it was determined that we needed to make amendments to bring our code into compliance with these new FCC rule changes. And so before you have proposed changes based on our review of the rule and our current code, Sections 2 and 3 of the proposed ordinance would amend our existing code provisions that were inconsistent with the standards pronounced in the rule that apply to more than just small wireless facilities. There had been a dispute among the various federal circuits as to what standards should apply under the statute, and the FCC came out clarifying the standard, and it's different than the standard that the circuit that would govern this area had. So we had to make those changes to ensure that we didn't have a conflict with the current accepted standard by the FCC. And then at Section 4 is essentially going to be a new standalone section of the code dealing exclusively with small wireless communications facilities. As we looked at the various changes that were made by the FCC, it made sense to have a standalone provision rather than trying to incorporate it into our pre-existing changes and so forth. So, and these are, for those who don't know what small wireless communication facilities are, these are typically located in the right-of-way and are either attached to existing utility poles or on new poles where utility poles are not available. Most often they're used with or associated at this point with the 5G network that you may be seeing a lot on the TV commercials. The FCC promulgated numerous new rules relating to those, a number of which would conflict with our current code provisions in the context of a small wireless facility. So we concluded it made the most sense to segregate these into standalone code sections. Because this would be an amendment of the zoning ordinance, the municipality's planning code requires that the supervisors submit the proposed amendment to the Township Planning Commission and the County Planning Department 30 days prior to holding a hearing on the ordinance amendment to provide those organizations the opportunity to provide comments, Accordingly, I would recommend that you authorize Mr. Waldinger to submit this proposed ordinance to each planning agency in accordance with the municipality's planning code, and then thereafter, once they review and provide any comments, we would then schedule a hearing on the ordinance, and it would be available at that time for the supervisor's review and vote.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Anything additional to add, Mr. Waldinger?
No, just like to thank Mark and his office for the work that they've done putting this together.
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to refer the zoning ordinance amendment for small wireless facilities to the Millcreek Township Planning Commission and the Erie County Planning Department?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 2020-R5, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015-R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. And this evening, it will be a vote to dispose of dash cam videos as they reach their retention, as they reach the end of the required retention period, and that'll be authorizing the MPD to delete dash cam videos that reach that retention period between the dates of January 29th, 2020 and February 11th, 2020. Any questions from the board?
No.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2020-R5?
So moved.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is Resolution 2020-R6, a resolution to change the contact person from reimbursement agreement R19010017 West Score Road and Glen Ridge Avenue. Mr. Waldinger or Mr. Shaw?
I will take that. This is a not dissimilar from an amendment to a different resolution that we had at the last meeting. This resolution is intended to amend Resolution 2019-R39, which relates to a project funding through PennDOT. And as I indicated, as was the case at our last meeting, the recent change in PennDOT's electronic contract procedures require that we redesignate the person authorized to sign documents for this project. And in this case, Ann Sokol, the township engineer, will be designated as the signatory.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Just want to further clarify, this is for a grant agreement. We were awarded funds to repave Glen Ridge and West Gore through the Erie Metropolitan Planning Organization. What was the last year, Mr. Waldinger?
Yes.
For a total of about, what, 300,000 total, or 200,000 for both those projects?
Close to 260.
So this is just amending that agreement so that we can receive those federal funds to supplement our paving program with those federal dollars. So is there a motion to approve Resolution 2020-R6?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the Millcreek Mall license agreement for recycling presentation. And I'm not sure who's covering that. Is that Mr. Olet or is that Mr. Shaw?
I think I can handle it if you want me to. We've done this before in years past. So this is a special use license agreement that is entered into between the township and Cafaro Peach Creek Joint Venture Partnership relating to attending what's called Widget Wednesday at the Widget Kids Zone to promote recycling to families from 11 a.m. to noon. There is zero cost to be paid by the township as a licensee, and it's a standard form agreement that the township has executed in the past in order to be able to participate in this event.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the Millcreek Mall licensing agreement?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next on the agenda is the Millcreek Fire Department and MPS Revolving Loan Capital Reserve Fund document approval. So Mr. Zakrzewski or Mr. Shaw?
Guess I'll take that one again. Pursuant to resolution.
What will we do with that, Jim Ware?
Pursuant to Resolution 2019 R57, the township authorized the formation of a revolving loan fund to be made available to the fire departments and MPS serving Millcreek. In that resolution, the board directed Mark Zacheski and myself to create the loan program, to implement the use of the fund, and directed that it include various items as reflected in the resolution. Before you is the proposed loan fund program for your approval. It consists of the following documents. There is a summary of loan program. There is a loan application. There is a closing process and checklist. There is a form term note. There is a form real estate loan agreement, a form equipment loan agreement, a form mortgage, a form borrower secretary certificate, a form borrower resolution, a form errors and omissions compliance agreement, a form UCC-1 financing statement, and a form security agreement. Each of these documents would be necessary depending upon the nature of the loan in order to secure the interest of the township, both in getting the loan repaid as well as if there were any defaults that would occur as a result of the loan. The documents do include the requirements imposed by Resolution 2019 R57, and I would recommend that the Millcreek Fire Department and MPS Revolving Loan Capital Reserve Fund Program before you be approved.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the Millcreek Fire Department and MPS Revolving Loan Capital Fund documents?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. And gentlemen, I apologize because I'm working off an old agenda. We had a resolution 20R7 as well that was supposed to be called on for a vote. It was a resolution to amend Resolution 2019 R38 to change the signatory for the multimodal fund grant as well. I guess that's similar to the
Yeah,
PennDOT.
that ties in with the grant agreement, actually, so it's probably worked out well that you missed it, because I was going to suggest that we wait until we get to the Peninsula Drive grant agreement to deal with that.
Well, and here we are.
Perfect.
Mr. Waldinger, Mr. Shaw. All right.
On January 16th of 2020, the township received the proposed grant agreement before you relating to the grant that was awarded to the township by the Commonwealth Financing Authority in the amount of $2.5 million for Phase 1 of the Peninsula Drive multi-purpose trail. We've reviewed the agreement with Mr. Waldinger, and it's recommended that the board approve execution of this agreement. If you recall, the board had previously authorized execution of any agreements if the grant was awarded through Resolution 2019 R38. But at that time, Mr. Groh was named the signatory. As a result, we need to amend the resolution, and before you is Resolution 2020 R7, which names Mr. Waldinger as a signatory for the grant agreement, as well as any other documents relating to the grant that is need to be executed. Not dissimilar from PennDOT, the Commonwealth Financing Agency uses an electronic system where signatures are done electronically, and I believe Mr. Waldinger has already signed up to be part of that system to be able to use it. So at this time, I'd recommend that you authorize execution of the grant agreement and approve Resolution 2020 R7.
Just so I'm clear, Mr. Shaw, as far as the actual grant agreement, is that would that be authorized Mr. Waldinger to make that signature, or
Yes.
the chairman of the board?
It would authorize Mr. Waldinger to make that signature.
Okay. So should we approve Resolution 2020 R7 first, then?
I don't know if it matters. We could do it jointly, I think, at the same time, it's authorized.
All right, with that, any questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion to approve the Peninsula Drive grant agreement with the State of Pennsylvania, and also Resolution 2020 R7 authorizing Director of Planning Development Matthew Waldinger to have the signatory authority on the agreement and all the documentation related to the grant?
So moved.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the alert application for Erie's Magnetics located at 1901 Wager Road. Mr. Walt?
Thank you.
Matt, it's so nice to hear from you again.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm still here. Yes, thanks. We've received an application from Erie's Manufacturing, who is building a 32,000 square foot manufacturing expansion and a 6,000 square foot office expansion at their property located at 1901 Wager Road. This property is located in the Township Lerda District. The cost of the improvements is $3,175,000. All LERTA applications are being approved by the Board of Supervisors as the taxing authority for Millcreek Township. What this would mean is that any additional assessed value that's determined by the county assessment board based on the new valuation would be deferred. The taxes on that would be deferred for 5 years. But it's, at this time, since it is an alerted district, we would recommend that you approve the LERTA application.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Any comments, Mr. Shaw?
No, I think that they've met the requirements of submitting the application at the appropriate time, so I think it is appropriate for the supervisors to act on this at this time.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the alert application for Erie's Manufacturing for improvements to be made at 1901 Wager Road?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the Community Development Block Grant Signature Authorization Request.
Zakczewski, I
Mr.
believe.
Chesky. Is that the person briefing us on this particular item, or is it Mr. Waldinger?
I can handle it if you'd like. The Department of Housing and Urban Development requires us to submit a report if we spent more than $750,000 during our fiscal year in federal awards. We received a letter notifying us that we had not submitted that report, and that's because we did not spend more than that in federal awards. So we do have a audit exemption form to be signed by the board, just stating to the Department of Housing and Urban Development that we have not reached that level and we are not required to go through the audit process.
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to authorize Chairman Bach to sign the single audit exemption self-certification document?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is financial security release requests from St. Mark's Episcopal Church, St. Mark's Episcopal Church developer. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, the developer, St. Mark's Episcopal Church, has completed all of their required public improvements for the addition project they did at their church at 4701 Old French Road. They have sent in a request to release their funds. It has been inspected both by Greenman Peterson Incorporated, our contracted third-party inspection firm for stormwater matters, as well as the township engineering inspector. Everything has been complete to date. So we have a form here from Township Engineer Ann Sokol recommending release of the security for St. Mark's Episcopal Church. It's PNC Bank check number 30486 in the amount of $27,357. So at this time, I would recommend release of those funds.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any questions from the board?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the financial security release request from St. Mark's Episcopal Church?
So moved.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is communications, treasurer communications. Mr. Zakrzewski, anything to report?
Nothing further at this time.
Next item are hiring requests, part-time seasonal hiring requests from Parks and Recreation. This comes from our Director of Parks and Recreation, Ashley Marsteller. Seeking to approve the hire of a new water safety instructor named Corey O'Connor for employment this winter session in the Learn to Swim program. That would be at the new hire rate of $9 per hour. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion for that approval.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is a training request from the Department of Public Works. Mr. Snyder.
Yes, I would like permission to send Anita Ray, our new clerk, in Public Works to 2 Excel classes at the Manufacturers Association. It would be level 1 and level 2. The first class would be on February 4th, and the second class on March 10th. The cost of each class is $260 for a total of $520. Each class would run from 8 to 4, and the cost would be covered by funds in the training budget. Anita has said she will use her own vehicle for travel. It would be my recommendation to allow Ms. Ray to attend the 2 Excel classes at the Manufacturers Association.
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve the training request?
So moved.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, we have requests from Millcreek Township Police Department, Chief Height. First is recommendation to authorize and issue payment to retiree Michael P. Dugan as he was subpoenaed for a burglary trial in the Commonwealth Court. According to payroll, the total amount is $145.35. My only comment on this is I know we've had previous discussions as to whether these payments would be considered 1099 employees or W-2 employees. Mr. Shaw, are you aware of this issue? What the
No, it's
clarification that
it's
was?
the first time I've seen this, but I think our past discussions was that in these situations, they should be 1099s and not kind of W-2s, so I don't know how this was handled, if it was handled that way or not. But I know that we
Mark,
had that
are
discussion
you
once
aware of
before.
how payroll's handling this?
I think this one was paid through accounts payable, so it would be a 1099.
I would make a motion to approve the request as long as it is through the 1099 process.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, a request from Chief Scott Height, requesting authorization for Captain Mook to attend the FBI LIDA Executive Development Course in Mount Lebanon, PA from March 9th to March 13th. Travel will be by department vehicle. The costs are estimated as follows. Registration, $695, lodging, $550, per diem, $322, fuel and total, $40, for a total of $1,607 for the training request. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second. Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, executive sessions. We'll announce the board did hold executive sessions on January 16th and January 23rd to discuss various legal and human resource matters. Next is our student ambassador report.
Good evening. So tickets are now on sale for the McDowell Center for Performing Arts productions of the play Romeo and Juliet and the musical Peeved. Romeo and Juliet is open February 6th through the 8th at 7 p.m. and February 8th at 2 p.m. as well. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for students. The dinner theater Peeved is open February 13th through the 15th and doors open at 6:30. Since it is a dinner theater, tickets are $25 for adults and $20 for students. Tickets are available at the door for Romeo and Juliet and pre-order for Peeved. Tonight, the McDowell boys basketball team plays against Cathedral Prep at 7 p.m. One of the members, William Jeffries, beat the all-time McDowell High School's leading scorer, passing with a total of 1,426 points. Also, members of the McDowell Orchestra are traveling to IUP University to partake in district orchestra, and members of the jazz band are traveling to Radford, Pennsylvania in 2 weeks to partake in district jazz band. And finally, over the past 2 weeks, the McDowell speech and debate team competed at North Allegheny High School, where members of the team took 6th place in public forum debate, 3rd place in extemporaneous speaking, 1st and 2nd place in policy debate, and 1st and 3rd place in big questions debate. The team competes again at UPenn tournament on February 6th through the 10th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Solicitor Communications, Mr. Shaw, I have not heard from you enough this evening. What else do you have to say?
I have nothing further to add.
You're kidding. Yeah, no news is good news for Mr. Shaw. All right. Next item is citizens to be heard. Anyone care to address the board this evening? Hearing none, anything for the good of the order? Going once, going twice. With that, is there a motion to adjourn at 7:30 PM?
Motion.
I will second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.